Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, bringing you a grand solar minimum update on Thursday, August 23rd, 10:54 p.m. Mountain Time, 2018. You're looking at the flooding from Hurricane Lane already hitting the Hawaiian Islands. Oh my God, look at that. That is tonight's first boom. The storm is still offshore of Kilauea and the full effects have not been felt. And this is what's already happening. Oh my goodness. That is a boom. Check out Hurricane Lane and its position, and this is already happening on these islands. This storm is tracked to move towards these central islands here in just 24 hours. We're going to be watching it closely, and you will be too, I'm sure. Thank you, Big Island News, for this sick footage of this early flooding. Oh my goodness. And that's a boom. That is an erosional boom. Unlike, well, we'll get to that. Let's talk about the hurricane. Please. Lane center to pass dangerously close or hit Hawaii. Officials. Not enough shelters for everyone, they say. Now, luckily, it appears, as I just looked at the updated models, that this is not going to affect Kilauea with 30 inches of rain. Only 8 to 10 inches, which is still severe. But those two small islands between Kilauea and Honolulu, oh my goodness. Those are the places that need to look out. The latest forecast track from the Central Pacific Hurricane Center brings the center of Lane dangerously close to the islands during Thursday through Saturday time frame. Regardless of the exact track of the storm, life-threatening impacts are likely over many areas. We just showed you sick flooding. And as the strong hurricane makes its closest approach, lives will be lost. And there will be millions that are fluxed. And that's boom. Something's out of place here. Yeah, we're going to talk about these idiots in a minute. You want to stay around for the discussion on the American Association of Idiots. Now let's check the models here coming over from Windy. All we have to do is move this little piece here, and we can run it through. This is actually hours ago when I set up the video here, so we'll move it forward after my 3 hours of research for this podcast, which is what I average on a night. We're going to run it through. And now this is the GFS model. So this is the most severe situation. And we're only talking winds here. If I put in gusts, this is really going to change the model. And I'll just bring it back with gusts. There it is. The major gusts from Kahului through Honolulu are going to be above 45 miles per hour. And let's start it. This is now. You can see the eye of the storm due east of the tip of the Big Island. And these three islands are going to be the most affected by the high winds. The rains, we're going to look at it, are going to affect the central area here as the eye wall moves directly toward it, according to the GFS model. This is the GFS setup for the next 24 hours. So the next 24 hours are going to be very critical. Let's come to the European model. And quickly we'll look at that. It doesn't look any better. It just spreads the major winds over a different portion of the islands. And as we run this through the next 4 to 6 hours, this gives a little bit more high wind damage to Hilo and the Big Island. But still, Kahului, I think that's it, Kahului and Honolulu are going to be the worst hit here. And these tiny islands, oh, I would not want to be on there when this baby, in the next 24 hours, if you're on these islands, I'm praying for you. And I'm sure there are millions others that are. Hurricane Lane unleashes major flooding, triggers landslides across Hawaii already. This is coming in from the weather, AccuWeather. Major Hurricane Lane will endanger lives and property as it impacts Hawaii into the weekend. We showed you the islands that are going to be most affected. If you have loved ones there, hopefully they're at high ground and they're in a safe place. Lane has the potential of bringing the state of Hawaii serious and perhaps record damage and permanent impacts, especially in the psyche of millions, over 4 million people living on this island complex. They will be needing your help in just a very short period of time. Here is the track coming from NOAA, Central Pacific Hurricane Center. There are no more hurricane warnings on the Big Island. It has been dropped to tropical storm moments ago, but hurricane warnings exist across the Central Islands, and watches are in Honolulu, but those will quickly change to warnings in just a few hours. Here we are at the total rainfall potential coming from the GFS model, and you can see that the Big Island is being spared only up at the summit here, getting above 10 inches. But still, flooding rains are already coming down, as we showed you. And if we bring it back to the beginning here, in just 24 hours, those Central Islands towards Honolulu are going to be receiving 6 to 10 inches of rain. Now, with the first sightings of white stuff on Snowmass Mountain, it's clear winter is coming, and it's August 23rd. There it is. Now, according to the National Weather Service, it did not snow here, if you read the article. Well, according to these pictures, it did. White flakes of snow Thursday morning. There's still a long way to go for the ski areas runs to be well skiable, but there is snow up above 10,000 feet, and that's a boom. Yeah, it is. And these people we're going to get to the American Association because they are scumbags. Rain event, even snow in the forecast. Yeah, this is you. This is smoke shrouding the Belton Hills as the sun rises last week through the smoke of the Howe Ridge fire. This is up in Montana, northwestern Montana, as this fire almost blackens out the sun, which many think is impossible. Now, cooler temperatures, because the waning magnetosphere, the sun is shutting down, we're going to have several more years of this increasing. So if you're not picking up what we're putting down, this is a good time. It's August 23rd, and cooler temperatures and snow is coming to Colorado and Montana, and we're going to get to the model. And it's happened before. You know, it happened in 2009 and 10 at the same exact time during the last solar minimum. But this is different. We're 2 years out from the bottom of this. And Monday's forecast is high temperatures for Glacier is 58 degrees and a low of 39. The National Weather Service said conditions above 7,000 feet are likely to be quite unpleasant. There's a chance of snow of 8,000 feet, and it's not out of question it will drop to 7. Snow doesn't drop to 7,000 feet here until December, kids. Yeah, I said December. Oh, she's picking it up. Yeah. And so is the National Weather Forecast and Daily Interlake. Yeah, big, huge resource there telling the truth. Did you know that over the last 7 days, our planet has been violently shaken by 144 major earthquakes over 4.5 magnitude? Well, this is because we've been in an earthquake drought. Man, that was delicious water. To many of us, it's becoming exceedingly clear that something very unusual is happening to our planet. I went and looked it up, this guy at Zero Hedge, and he was astounded to learn that the crust of the earth has been shaken by 144 major earthquakes over the last 7 days. Now, unfortunately, the earth has been in an earthquake drought. So if you add the quakes in, it's pretty normal, unfortunately. But based on the predictions that we're making and the science that we're using, the uptick is as predicted. And unfortunately, from this point on, it's going to increase. So in a very short period of time, 3 to 6 months, there's going to be some more news coverage of a more catastrophic tone than this particular article, which starts to hint at it. But we're really not in any unprecedented territory currently. Now, we have had a 5.4 here in the Philippines at 35 kilometers since we started making the video, but the seismicity has quieted down. Now, we've dropped into KP of 0, and we're going to do a little space weather in a moment. This is going to be a long update. Worldwide Volcano News update, EBICO. We have volcanic ash in satellite imagery here. As well as Etna with Strombolian eruptions today, Krakatoa still active, Semaru, Dukono, Reventador, and Sakurajima exploding again. Now, Etna in Sicily is showing Strombolian explosions. Sporadic explosions at Sabancaya. And we're going to be watching these Italian volcanoes because that could be a source of one of the major VEI events that's rapidly cool the planet in the next decade. Now let's talk about what's up in space. Lights over Lapland. Yes. Remember when they told you that the aurora was going to die away? They're so full of it. They don't even know what they're talking about. So continue to follow the science here and you're going to be very learned. Possible CME impact this week. Earth's magnetic field could become unsettled, producing amazing aurora. Yeah. And this is coming tomorrow and the next day when a slow-moving coronal mass ejection reaches our planet. Now, there is much uncertainty about this CME. NASA and ESA satellites saw the solar storm cloud leave the sun on the 21st. Ben Davidson has talked about it, and now we're talking about it. Now, ESA and NASA could not pinpoint the source on the solar disk of this eruption, nor could they precisely determine its trajectory. And if the CME does indeed hit us, heads up, there could be some minor perturbations to the grid and amazing aurora. And here we see this ISS in front of the sun, the only spot visible. 2719 has degraded. There are no more sunspots, kids. We are in grand solar minimum and dropping down into the solar minimum of 24, which is going to be occurring for the next 3 years. Here we're looking at the Enlil spiral. And yes, NASA used a biblical name, Enlil, for their computer model. It's totally insane. The powers that be, the Illuminati, the shadow government, those that are controlling the narrative, are putting the information in plain sight and making fun of you. And here's an example through NASA, the Enlil spiral. But more importantly, let's look at it. It's totally trippy, man. And you can see that CME that they do not know about, that they're modeling here. Boom! It's going to hit us. Come over here at the timestamp, 24/5. So the 25th, 6th, according to the, boom, 5th, 6th, 7th, we could be feeling effects of this CME. And it could have some minor grid perturbations. Now, the major companies that will be affected, if there's any airline traffic, they're going to say they don't know what happened to their computers. You wait and see what happens if this baby does hit us. It's going to be funny because we know the truth and they're going to lie. We're going to be talking about more lies. Here's one of them. The Arctic's last bastion of sea ice is breaking up for the first time on record. Ever. We've never seen this before, except it happened earlier this year, and then it happened again later this year, which would be the second time this year, but it's the first time ever. Now come read this article. This was the area that was seen as the last bastion. Okay? In late February and March, the ice broke up. We saw this occur first earlier this year. And then it froze up again. And then it happened again for the second time this year. But it's the first time ever. Someone's lying about ice breaking up. So what they did is they found a little section of ice that is breaking up for the first time right here in Greenland. There's a white strip here. We're going to look at it. Why isn't this not blowing up here? There it is. Boom. So this white strip here is usually red. It has thick ice. The only problem is that ice in the Arctic shifts around. And the thick ice has now moved out into the center of the Arctic where it hasn't been for a decade. So now the center of the Arctic, as we head into the glacial period, is becoming glaciated. It's going to continue to cover with ice, getting thicker every year until it covers over all summer. And you can see it turning over and reglaciating now. So the ice is thickening in the Arctic. The Arctic ice cap is now growing. And the fact that there's no ice here is very explainable on the record volume because it's now in the center by the North Pole, where it hasn't been for a decade, spawning all of the global warming nonsense. Now let's talk about the facts. Look at how much snow is coming through the first week of September in the Arctic. And more specifically, here is the lost ice. There's no snow happening there. See the white zone here? Nothing. But if you just look, south of there. Look at how much snow is going to be falling here. Almost 3 feet through the first week of September. So, the Arctic ice is building hard, early, and quickly. We're going to have a new zone of thick ice quickly, over 3 meters thick here on the southern portion of the northern portion of Greenland. Yes, the northwest portion of Greenland is going to have the thickest ice, and it is now broken away from the eastern portion because the Arctic ice is shifting into a different mode. It's going to be thickening like it used to decades ago. This is an article back from 2011. And this is coming from Science Direct, the denial of climate change among conservative white males in the U.S. It's an old article. It's 7 years old. I'll leave you links to everything down below where it says show more. Now, this was picked up by the AAAS just this week, where they rehashed it. Now, this is the American Association for the Advancement of Science, supposedly. They picked up a very old article. Climate change denial is linked to right-wing nationalism. So now they went even further right, and they said that Nazis, that I'm a Nazi. I'm a right-wing nationalist. Well, I'll tell you what. For 5 years, I was the director of a nonprofit that was fighting right-wing nationalism. Yeah. So I'm not a right-wing nationalist, I assure you. And if you are, you can suck it. But the fact that the American Association for the Advancement of Science is posting this, rehashing the 7-year-old article, shows that they have nothing to do with science. And it gets even deeper. Now, this fraud cult is one of the largest nonprofit groups in the country, and its board of directors controls millions of dollars. And Michael E. Mann just received the AAAS Public Engagement with Science Award. The biggest fraud in science history. Mr. Hockey Stick won their award. Now, the AAAS board defends climate scientists, according to this article in Fraud Daily, Science News. It says it vigorously opposes attacks on researchers that question blah, 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 and on and on. You can read the nonsense. But let's get to the facts. Organizations give awards to recognize those individuals who best display the values of that organization, and which that organization seeks to represent and uphold. Now, the American Association for the Advancement of Science is the leading scientific organization in the U.S. And from a vast pool of excellent scientists who engage with the public, including me, the AAAS has decided in 2018 to give its prestigious award for public engagement to the biggest douchebag in history, Michael Mann. And you know why we find this remarkable? Because Michael Mann tweets daily about Donald Trump, typically calling him names and mocking him. Now, Mann writes dozens and dozens of tweets about Trump every day. In fact, he's almost insane. And here are some examples. Michael Mann has suggested on more than one occasion that the death penalty is appropriate for a Republican member of Congress. And here's an example. You can read it yourself. He has worked hard to have people he disagrees with fired from their jobs. And a friend of the channel's, he has sued them and is almost bankrupted them to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is Dr. Tim Ball we're talking about. This is what this scumbag has done. And the AAAS gave him a prestigious award. He's also targeted Judith Curry, who's coming on the show, Megan McArdle, Rebecca Mercer, Brett Stevens. He sued people he disagrees with, including journalists and fellow academics. This is not science. This is bullying. And the AAAS is the American Association of Ass Sharts. Nothing more. Total garbage. And it's even picked up in Norway, where they just changed it and added Norway. Taylor Francis Online, bought and paid for by the powers that be. Environmental Sociology 101. Don't read this crap. It's rehashed crap. Now suck my D and balls. This woman, very highly qualified, blew up her NASA internship before it launched because she said suck my D and balls. And you know what, NASA? You could suck my D and balls. There goes my internship. Don't mean to alarm you, but NASA's about to pummel the planet with a huge frickin' space laser. Yeah. You don't know about it? What could possibly go wrong? They're only the most reliable source of information on the Earth. I mean, NASA knows everything. Now, an orbital Earth sciences laser, NASA's ICESat-2, is in the final stages of preparation ahead of next month's launch, where they will launch the huge frickin' laser beam into space. And they're going to shoot it at the diminishing glaciers, firing 10,000 pulses per second at the ice to pick up measurements that they won't share with us or they'll manipulate to prove that global warming is going to kill you. You know what's going to kill you? The medicines you're feeding your children. 32 children's medicines are recalled due to possible life-threatening contamination. It's in your food, too. Oh, do you know about Steve Jobs? Yeah, he's a total D-bag. And he can suck it. I'm sorry. And I'm saying that to his children. I didn't have such a good childhood either. But I did get bikes at Christmas. There are changes ahead, kids. Be prepared. Are you prepared? We're not here to scare you. We're here to prepare you. Let's check some science. Here are the last 8,000 years, according to the Greenland Ice Core GES-2 project. Now, for the last 3,600 years, the temperature has been rapidly decreasing, which is signaling the end of the interglacial. And at some point, it goes straight down. Boom. And that's at 11.5, kind of right where we are. 11.5. Yep, we're there. Are you prepared? Heads up. Let's check out the sun. Only recently were our scientists putting the pieces together that the past is the key to the future. We should learn from our mistakes. Back when it was bad and really bad, when the sun was dying, is just about to hit us in 10 years. It's hitting us in the next 2 years, actually. Why aren't they warning us? Because they don't give up about you. When will you get it? It's not all pixie sticks and candy, kids. Oh yeah, I did this great interview with Rex Bear, Leak Project. Did you guys watch it? My computer's shutting down, so we're quickly ending the video. And that's a boom. The video, the podcast with Rex will be up tomorrow. And we're getting lots of spinny things. So this is another slightly shite video, but we love you. And you love us, I'm sure. Be safe.